In lieu of not being able to go to shows for a long time, shows and concerts, who knows when it'll be? Might be the fall, might be even beyond that. We thought of a segment that each one of us comes up with 3 or 4 different tours or bands touring off an album, or it could be a band touring from a certain year that we would pay $1,000 to see. So, for example, this isn't one of mine, but an example would be I would love to see Metallica tour off the Black Album right before it released because they played this specific venue that I love and Anthrax opened, and then so we're going to do it like a round robin style and basically defend our choices. And then once we give our spiel, the other two of us will just kind of shoot the shit on it and comment on it. So I don't know what the segment's called, but just Tour Dream,
Tour Dreams.
Tour Dreams.
Tour Time Machine.
Tour Time Machine.
Yeah,
I like that.
I have one on here that happened before all of us were born. So actually 2, if you look at one of my honorable mentions. There's a, and some of it you might actually need to get into a plane too and fly somewhere. So it's not necessarily where you're at.
Tour Time Machine. I like that. Yeah. And we may revisit this in future episodes, but given the climate,
up 3 or 4 was hard. I could have had 10 or 15. So.
Exactly. So given the climate now that there's no live music for the foreseeable future, this is a fun time to do this. So, who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I have 3. They're all kind of different from each other. The first one I think I want to throw out there is Daft Punk around the years 2006, 2007 when they were recording Alive 2007. I came to Daft Punk late. Was never really music that I gave the time of day. My fiance was into them. I had a couple friends that were into them that kind of turned me on them a little bit. Shouts to Settler, the producer. He's not here yet still, but someday he will be, and he'd be nodding right now in the corner and pulling up pictures of robots. But he kind of really pushed this album on me and was like, listen to this, you'll love it. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then we were hanging out and listening to it, and I loved it. I was like, yeah, nope, this makes sense, man. Like, I'm in on this. So that became an album I listened to a ton, working out, being out doing things that, you just didn't want to do. You throw that on, it would kind of make things better. They were playing big venues at this time, which is typically not, as far as looking at this project we came up with, not necessarily what I was looking for. I was trying to find something that would have been a little more intimate with a band that, caught them before they were big type of thing. But I think with this one and how everybody was so into them and how they tour so infrequently, it would have been a cool venue, a cool event to be at, no matter where you went. But they were playing big places, obviously 10,000 plus venues for this tour. I did go on a little deep dive on YouTube, watch some of the amateur video because I know one of the 2, Thomas Bangalter, had wanted to do a DVD to go along with this and ended up scrapping it because he was like, you know what, I want this to be like a fan experience type thing. People can put their recorded videos, and back then YouTube was kind of in its infancy. They can put their videos from this show out into the world, and that'll be our kind of DVD to that. So they just, recorded it and obviously have put it out in various platforms since, digitally. I have the vinyl at home because I love it. But yeah, I feel like seeing this group of shows would have been something you'd be like, yeah, they don't tour, and I saw them 12 years ago, and this was amazing. I'm glad that I went to see that. And I came to them later than it happened, but at the same time, if I could go back in time, and I got a couple of those, this is one that I would definitely go back in time for.
What year was this again?
The tour 2006, 2007, and they called it the Alive 2007 tour.
So Daft Punk, I think I know the singles, but they're a band. When I think of them, I can't put faces to them. Like they're a band that is all visual, right? Yeah, they're all visual. So that it would have been a show. I think you mentioned it. It would have been an event.
Yes,
totally would have been an event.
Yeah,
kind of like the Gorillaz, like different visual.
I remember actually, Tone, when I was living in New York City, that tour had rolled through.
Yeah, probably played.
And they were playing it.
MSG.
They were playing a show at. Sorry.
Were they at MSG, something big, or?
No, they were playing Coney Island.
Oh, no, okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
Which is was rare at the time. They weren't doing any shows there, so that they were like a one-off, and it was an event. And I remember a lot of my friends were going and stuff. And I think I was just getting into them at that point in time, too. And I wish I went to that show because it looks really cool. Yeah.
They didn't come anywhere near us. I mean, that would have been Boston probably. I couldn't find a specific date that made sense, but like Twan said, like it was more than just what the band is doing on stage, because it's a lot of electronic music. Like up until their last album, they did a lot of what they made was on a computer in front of them. So their first album and their last album, the middle ones around this time were very digital, and they just kind of hung out in this huge lit up pyramid in a lot of the videos. And it was just like people going crazy. And like I think they kind of invented the beat drop. You know how it's been done before and after, I know, but a lot of music today has that build up to a
Big
drop.
build up, yeah.
Listen to the first track on that tour record, Robot Rock, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and then boom, it hits you with it, and the place goes nuts. Like those videos are awesome because people are just losing their shit because they just love it so much. Just fun.
Wow. Yeah, that album's super rad. And I remember, after that, so that was 06. So then 07, Kanye put Graduation out, obviously collaborated with Daft Punk.
Yep.
So, and that kind of changed his direction with his career as well. So.
Well, and that another like entrance point for me on them was that. I know Stronger by Kanye sampled Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger from Discovery from Daft Punk, and they produced some of the stuff on that album.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and if you go back and listen to it, the songs are a little different, obviously, because he twisted it to make it work for his beat. But they knew what they were doing, and he sampled it and turned it into an iconic rap song from that time frame. So he, genius recognized genius, I guess, as they would say.
So Tone, you're up. Round 2.
All right, round 2 for me. I have a show that I believe Anthony was at. A time frame that I believe Anthony was at. I think, Nate, we talked about this. We touched upon this last week. Blink-182 on the Dollar Bill Tour.
Yeah.
I wanted so badly to go to this show. They played at the Axis Avalon / down in Boston, which is a 500-person venue, and they were coming off of Self-Titled. So that album I absolutely love. That came out, 02?
3.
March 6, 03? No, that was the show was November 6, 2003. The album came out earlier in the year, and we all, I know at that time we were all listening to it. It was just such a great Blink album from front to back for me. I was talking to another friend of mine today about us doing this and just kind of talking about music and stuff, and he was like, I don't get it. I don't know why you would pick them. And I'm like, you're 7 years older than I am, and you didn't hit it the way I did it. Like,
right.
This
That's
is
a great point.
Total nostalgia piece. Like, you would have been out of college. I was going into my freshman year of college. Like, this was right up my alley, and I had friends that were into it, and you were going to it, Twine, and we had talked about it a little bit, that you were going to be able to get to it, and it would have been great.
Were you there, Nate?
I was also at that show.
Yeah.
Oh, you went too, yeah.
So I thought it would be cool to talk about a show that I wanted to go to, that you guys were both actually at, and could tell me if it lived up to the hype or if it wasn't that good, or who knows. I didn't get to go. I would have loved to have been there. Bubba Sparks opened. The band also called the Kinnisons, which has disappeared. Bubba Sparks probably has also disappeared, but we all kind of remember Bubba Sparks. So, November 6, 2003, at the Avalon, which was a capacity of about 5,000. That has since been demolished. It was demolished in 2007. So 4 years later, that venue no longer existed. So
it's House of Blues. They combine Axis and Avalon.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, right on Lansdowne. So you asked what we remember about it. I actually don't remember too much. I remember it was
only 17 years ago. Come
I
on,
know.
give me a minute for minute.
I remember. So it was at the Avalon, and 500 sounds about right. I would have guessed a little more, but I think the Access might have been 500. What I do remember about the show is it was packed. It was it was probably above capacity because it was the $2 or dollar bill.
They wanted to do it for free.
Yeah. So
and
they had
the
to charge.
venues said no. The venues
so
were
there's no money, so they just did it for the love of the game. And I think they it had to have been over fire code. That place was packed. I remember being in the back. You couldn't even move to the front at all. I don't remember much about the set list.
I could look. I actually think I looked that up.
Nate, what do you have on the show?
Similar to you. I don't have a great recollection of the show. I just know it was really short. It was a short set list. I know it was
13 songs.
Oh wow, good pull.
How many?
13.
Yeah, that's short.
13 songs. Yeah, so I remember it being a short show. But I do, similar to what you were saying, I remember it being way overpacked. Way overpacked. I think part of me thinks there was a lot of, counterfeit tickets sold to that show because it pre-sold. I had a friend that waited in line the night before to get tickets. So I came down from Maine down to Boston for that show, but there was like no way to get tickets unless you waited in line. And they were, like you were saying, Blink was huge at that point.
Yeah,
so,
they had come off of, they're touring for self-titled. They had put out "Take Off Your Pants and Jacket," which was big. They had put out "Enema of the State," which was big. And this was kind of a mishmash of all three of those albums. They had opened with "What's My Age Again," which was obviously probably their biggest hit. Adam's song was up there too, and that's also on the set list. Close with "Damn It." "Damn It's" huge. Everybody knows "Damn It." So yeah, they had some songs. I mean, but yeah, I wish I had been able to go.
That's a good pull.
Yeah.
That was a good show. That was the only time I've ever seen them, I think.
I've never seen them. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've never seen them, unfortunately.
I've seen Blink. I actually saw Blink-182 a bunch of times. I want to say 6 times total. But to be honest, the best time I saw them was with No Doubt. It was No Doubt and Blink-182.
Almost went to that show with my buddy Brad. Almost.
Yeah, at the Tweeter Center. And this almost never happens for me because I just don't have the luck to get these kind of tickets. But I was right in the pit, which is a little section in front of the stage at the Tweeter Center.
That's a big venue. So being right in front of the stage is...
Yeah, giant outside amphitheater in Mansfield, Massachusetts. So I was like, right in the front. I was right in front of Mark, the bassist, and caught one of his picks and stuff. The whole geek thing. I was just like, oh, this is super rad. But that was a killer show. But I had a sense that things weren't looking good because we kind of grew up with like the fun stuff, especially on Enema and that live Enema album where Tom and Mark are joking the whole time. They were like just kind of going through the motions at that point. So I was like, I remember having a little feeling like, this just seems like they're just rushing through this. And it was punk rock because they were doing songs at a faster tempo and it was really cool. But there was some part of me that was like, this doesn't seem like what I remember.
Just going through the motions at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure that happens when you're on tour and you're already living with these guys on the bus and all this stuff. I'm sure it gets old after a while, but I just remember having that feeling, even though it was a killer show.
There's a podcast that I listen to called The Sound of the Story, which he does a whole deep dive on the self-titled era and then the kind of the beginning of them and the breakup of them. And if anybody's a fan of Blink-182 out there listening to this, I would highly recommend going back and listening to that podcast because it's really cool. It kind of gives you a little more of insight of how things kind of fell apart for them.
You actually sent me that, and I remember listening to that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
his voice is a little a little tough at times, but I really enjoy that podcast. There have been some really good albums he's kind of dissected: Counting Crows, August, and Everything After, Brand News, The Devil and God. I enjoy his.
It's super nerdy. A lot of deep dive. Like a lot of research goes into it. He doesn't spare any details.
All right, we ready for I think is Nate now up?
Nate, you're up, round 2.
I was going to say one more thing on that Blink thing. It's weird that I live in San Diego now because Tom literally lives, I think, like 4 blocks away from where I live.
Well, and you went, and again, going back to what we were just talking about, you saw Angels and Airwaves in a tiny club not 6 months ago?
Oh, yeah, Belly Up. It's a small little club.
I remember waking up to videos from that show from you and being like, oh, my God, this is amazing.
Oh, super rad. Yeah, I was, because he hadn't played music in, I think, 7 years at that point. And they still haven't released this new Angels and Airwaves album, but yeah, it was like the first gig back.
But you got Angels and Airwaves, hits from that. You got hits from Boxcar Racer, which was a kind of a one-off with Tom DeLonge. and which they put out because he was mad about Plus 44, I think, or the Transplants or something. So that's kind of sowing the seeds of their breakup. And you got songs from a couple songs from Blink too, like just total nerd. That's been so cool.
So Nate, the Mexican restaurant Sombrero that's mentioned in Josie. Yeah. Does that still exist? Sombrero.
Oh, yeah.
Does it really?
It's like a local franchise. Yeah.
Is it? I heard it's terrible. It's only like the only reason people go there is because the Blink reference.
So maybe it won't be open for much longer.
There's just so much good Mexican food here. It's kind of like bottom of the totem pole. But yeah, it's ironically the only time I've ever been there is the one in Poway, which is where Blink originated from. So it's probably that same exact location.
That's cool though. I mean, you
super
get to
nerdy, yeah. But yeah, crazy man. Blink-182, great band. I don't know if they'll ever get back together. If they do, it'll probably be a cash grab or something.
I'd be okay with that as long as the music was good and I had a chance to see them. My ultimate, I guess, because penultimate would have been the last. Led Zeppelin for Led Zeppelin 4. And the reason behind that, I thought about doing Led Zeppelin 1 because they would not have been, playing big venues. So at this time for 4, they were playing very large. They were a worldwide phenomenon with the coming of their 4th album. But they decided Jimmy Page wanted to play smaller venues. So I'm flying to the UK or Northern Ireland and seeing them at a place. What's the name of it? I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was about 1,000 people that it seated to see Led Zeppelin just kind of, hey, here's Stairway to Heaven for the first time ever on the tour for Led Zeppelin 4. The other place that they played on this tour when they came to the United States, North America, they played the Boston Garden. I never got to the Boston Garden. Would have loved to have gotten there for a Celtics game or something, being a huge fan, but would have been cool to see them there. And then they also played a stop about 6 days later, 9/13/1971, in Berkeley, California, with Alice Cooper and Pink Floyd. So to see the three of those in 1971 together, sign me up. I'm paying $1,000 for that right now. I would absolutely go see. I love Pink Floyd. Not a gigantic Alice Cooper fan, but to see Alice Cooper when he was Alice Cooper would have been really cool. Not the golfer that he is today. To see him out there, playing. I'm 18 and school's out, and then to get all the first 4 albums from Zeppelin with just hit after hit. I mean, I hit a Zeppelin phase when I was 18, and obviously love it still. Don't listen to it nearly as much, but.
And Pink Floyd, you said?
And Floyd, yeah. I mean, just think about that show for a minute. 9/13/71. I was born 13 years later, so hadn't happened yet. But
you'd have to do some research on this, but I wonder if that tour inspired Led Zeppelin to write No Quarter after touring with Pink Floyd.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because that's my favorite song of all time is No Quarter by Led Zeppelin, but it's definitely got some Pink Floyd textures to it.
Yeah, definitely longer. A little more kind of ethereal, trippy.
Super spacey.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I also would have loved to have gone to see them on Physical Graffiti too, because I love that album front to back, double album that they put out. But I felt like with the story around 4 was cooler, especially if you could have found a way to see them in a small venue and then a big venue with bands like Pearl Jam and Alice Cooper. Or not Pearl Jam, Pink Floyd. Sorry.
1,000 people is tiny.
So small.
I mean, that's
smaller than our small venue here in Portland. That would I imagine seeing them in a smaller venue than the State Theater or like the Palladium. What's the Palladium hold?
2,000,
in Worcester.
2,500 maybe.
I mean, just
with
think,
the balcony.
Led Zeppelin in 1,000 when they're Led Zeppelin. It's not like they were just some band that was playing these small venues to kind of make their way and make their name. No, they were Led Zeppelin at this point. People knew who they were. They were massive. They were playing massive arenas, and Jimmy Page was like, nah, let's play small spots for a little while and get back to who we were. And I mean, it's always cool when bands do stuff like that. It's kind of a theme for my last two, Blink-182, same thing. They play smaller venue as opposed to playing some of the bigger ones. So it would have been so cool to be part of kind of rock history, especially since they stopped making albums in the early 80s and stopped touring, and then Bonham died, and They've done a couple of things here and there. I know, Nate, we saw Robert Plant with the Strange Sensation in Boston in 2005.
Yep.
So, I mean,
it was 05. Yeah.
That was as close to Zeppelin as we were going to get.
Yeah, I've seen Plant a few times. I've seen John Paul Jones play with them Crooked Vultures.
You saw them? Oh, damn.
Yeah. Who else have I seen from Zeppelin? I mean, there's only 3 of them. But
Jimmy?
Jimmy's actually, he never does. I don't know why that guy doesn't do anything solo.
Yeah.
Touring wise, but
he went out with the Black Rose for a little while, and that was cool. That album's actually really fun to listen to.
That's true.
They did
I
some
did hear
Black
some
Rose
stories
songs.
about that.
They did some Zeppelin songs, and that was fun.
Yeah, I've heard some good stories about that tour actually. So was Pink Floyd just getting started then?
No, I think they've been around a little bit, but they weren't to the level that Zeppelin was.
Wow.
So yeah,
incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. I mean, just you saw. Did you see Waters down in Boston or Mansfield? Did you go to that show, Nate?
Yeah, I've seen Roger Waters 3 times now.
Yeah. That would have been. I mean, I've seen Brit Floyd, which doesn't count. It was cool, but I would love to have seen obviously Pink Floyd or any iteration of Pink Floyd.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're left with now. It's like we see who's still going. So Robert Plant, obviously, John Paul Jones kind of does sporadic stuff.
Yep.
That's all for Zeppelin, and then Pink Floyd. You got Roger Waters, who does a tour every 4 or 5 years. It seems like at this point.
Yeah, and Gilmore's still doing some stuff on his own here and there.
Barely, but he does tour, and I did see him on that run he did about 4 years ago here when I went up to the show in Los Angeles.
That's cool.
And was definitely in my top 10 favorite shows of all time.
That's
incredible.
Cool. Yeah, I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. Just great musicians all around, and obviously, like for me, the basis of some of the nerdery, we were, it hit me at my formative years. I was 17, 18. Really kind of finding my way as far as music went, and okay, let's check out some of this old stuff. Like it's on the radio here and there, depending on what you listen to, and then we have a radio station here in Southern Maine called WBLM, which has been around for eons. It feels like 40 years or so, and every Tuesday night, every night at 10 o'clock they'd play something called the Zepp Set, which we would do, like wherever we were, we'd try to throw on BLM to catch the Zepp Set, and on Tuesday they do 2 for Tuesday, so sometimes we get 4 songs. So it's like let's just plan our night around having some beers around the Zepp Set. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's part of what got me into Zeppelin and became one of my all-time favorite bands too. Is that's a tribute to the record or radio industry. Is there is some influence there because the Led Zeppelin hour there really changed it for me. It was like, oh, nice, some deep cuts that you don't necessarily always hear. And then I went back and bought the albums at Bull Moose Music and have the whole collection now. And yeah, man, absolutely, very cool.
And the aforementioned WBLM goes by the Blimp, which is a Zeppelin reference too. So they were
that's right.
hand in hand with Zeppelin for quite a while. I do believe the Zepp Set has died, sadly, but it was a thing for a very long time. And I mean, it was part of the reason that this band, at 15 years, 20 years later, I'm throwing them on my list here.